Hey everyone, today we are going to be looking at percents greater than 100% and less than 1% because these do happen at times and we want to know how to deal with them. We're going to be doing the same thing that we've been doing all week with fractions, decimals, and percents, but now the fractions, decimals, and percents are going to show a percent greater than 100% or less than 1%. In the first box here, we're given a fraction 2 and 7 over 10. This is going to be an example of a one, it's going to be greater than 100%. So this is going to be greater than 100%. The reason why it's greater than 100% is because this 2 out front, that makes it a mixed number. If it's possible, we want to convert it to a decimal first. Well, this one, it is possible to convert to a decimal. We're going to keep the 2 out front and put a decimal point. And then we know that 7 over 10, so this right here, we're going to have one decimal place and we're going to put a 7 in it. So this is 2.7. Now I'm going to change that decimal into a percent. To go from a decimal to a percent, I'm going to multiply by 100 or move the decimal two times to the right. So I'm going to take this decimal and I'm going to move it 2 times to the right. 1, 2. This becomes 270%. So I'm combining all of the things that we've done over the last 3 days and now using them with a percent that's greater than 100% or less than 1%. So the next one says 3 and 1 over 500. So I'm going to start with 3 and then a decimal. Now I'm going to deal with this part, the fraction. In order to change this into a decimal, I have to get the denominator to be a power of 10. So 10, 100, 1000, etc. So I'm going to look at 1 over 500 and I'm going to try and get it to 1,000. Well, to get it to 1,000, I'm going to multiply by 2. Looks like a plus sign. And 1 times 2 is 2. This means that I've got 3 blanks, and 2 is going to be the last one. So this is going to be 0, 0, so I'm going to have 3.002. That's my decimal. Now I'm going to take my decimal and make it into a percent. So I'm going to take my decimal and move it 2 places to the right. So this is 300.2%. This is going from a mixed number, so a whole number with a fraction attached to it, to a decimal that's greater than 1. So I've got a 2 in front, I've got a 3 in front, and then my percent is greater than 100%. In the next two examples, I've already got percents that are greater than 100%. Remember that if I am given a percent that does not have a decimal in it, the decimal's at the end. Now my arrows are going the other way. So you can see that my arrows are going this way. To go from a percent to a decimal, we're going to take the decimal point and move it 2 places to the left. So 1, 2 makes this decimal 4.27. And now to go from a decimal to a fraction, so I'm going to use this middle number and go from a decimal to a fraction. I'm going to create a mixed number. So just like the first two had that whole number out front, this one has the whole number out front. So I'm going to do 4 first, and then I'm going to follow my place value. Well, my place value here is in the hundredths place. It's 2 decimal places. So this is going to be 27 over 100, and 27 over 100 cannot be simplified. In the next one, I've got my 202 with my decimal at the end. I'm going to move it 2 places to the left. So this is going to be 2.02. And again, I'm going to write my mixed number 2 in the front. And then I've got the hundredths place again. It's 2 decimal places, so this is going to be over 100. So 2 over 100. Now this one I'm going to simplify. So 2 and 100 have a 2 in common. Dividing by 2 here only affects this part of the fraction. So 2 is going to stay the same. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 100 divided by 2 is 50. So my final answer here is 2 and 1 over 50. This is going from a percent to a decimal and then to a fraction. The next 2 examples, I'm going from the decimal, and I can go either direction that I want to first. If I want to go from a decimal to a fraction, I'm going to start by putting the 1 out in front for my mixed number. This is the hundredths place again. Hundredths means over 100. It is also 2 decimal places, which is over 100. So this is going to be 1 and 3 over 100. This fraction cannot be simplified, so 1 and 3 over 100 is the answer. To go from a decimal to a percent, I'm going to take this decimal right here and I'm going to move it 2 places to the right. So this is 103%. So I can go either direction that I would like to first. So this one is going out in both directions as well. 34.2, I'm going to have 34 as the first part of my mixed number. 2 is in the tenths place. So this is going to be 2 over 10. And then I've got to simplify this part. So I'm going to divide by 2 over 2. 34 is going to stay the same. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. So that's my fraction. To go from a decimal to a percent, I'm going to move the decimal 2 places to the right. So 1, 2. So this becomes 3,420%. So that's a really big one. Again, we're following all the rules that we've established for converting between fractions, decimals, and percents. We're just doing them all at once. The arrow should give you a good indicator of which way you're moving. So when the value is given to you as a decimal, you can go either direction. When the value is given to you as a percent, it is easiest to go through decimals, then to fractions. And then if we're given a fraction, we're going to go through decimals and then on to percents. This whole front side is percents that are greater than 100%. So all of these values are more than 100%. On the back side, we are looking at percents that are less than 1%. So really teeny tiny percents. So for this one, to go from a fraction to a decimal, I'm over 1,000. So I'm going to have 3 decimal places. My number needs to end in that 3. So 0.003. And we're going this way. You can see my arrows are pointing to the right. To go from a decimal to a percent, I'm going to take my decimal and I'm going to move it 2 places to the right. So 1, 2. So my new decimal is right in here. That makes this 0.3%, and I like to put the leading 0. It's not necessary if you don't want to write it. So I started at 3 over 1,000. I wrote it as 0.003, 3 thousandths, and then 0.3%. My denominator of 10,000 in the next one gives me 4 decimal places, and 7 is going to be my last one, so all those gaps are going to be zeros. I want to change this decimal now into a percent. So I'm going to move my decimal 2 places to the right. So this is 0.07%. So a really teeny tiny percent. This is starting with a fraction, going to a decimal, and then converting it to a percent by moving the decimal. Next one, we're going to go from percent back to decimal. So we're going this way this time. So to go from a percent back to a decimal, I've got 0.23. I'm going to take my decimal and go 2 places to the left. So this time I'm filling in a space with a 0. And my decimal is 0.0023. To go from a decimal to a fraction, I'm going to count the decimal places. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is going to be over 10,000. And it's going to be 23 over 10,000. I cannot simplify that fraction. 23 and 10,000 do not have anything in common. In the next one, I've got 0.7. So I'm going to start with 0.7. I'm going to take my decimal and I'm going to move it 2 places to the left. And again, I'm going to add that placeholder 0. So this is going to be 0.007. I'm going to count my place values. So 1, 2, 3 is going to be over 1,000. And I'm going to have 7 over 1,000. 7 over 1,000 is in simplest form as well. I can't do anything because they have nothing in common. The next one, we can go either direction first. So I can go back to a fraction or I can go forward to a percent. To make this into a fraction, I'm going to count my place values. So 1, 2, 3 is going to be over 1,000. So 9 over 1,000. This cannot be simplified because 9 and 1,000 don't have anything in common. To go from a percent to a decimal, a decimal to a percent, I'm going to move this 2 places to the right. So I'm going to get 0.9%. For the last one down here, nice long decimal here. So I'm going to count my place values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros on the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 1 millionth. So it's going to be 317 over 1 million. And then I'm going to move my decimal to the right 2 places. So here's my decimal, 1, 2. So it's going to be 0.0317%. This entire backside is all percents less than 1. So if I look at every percent down the right-hand side, 0.3, 0.07, 0.23, everything is less than 1, super teeny tiny percents. So my fractions are going to be over very large denominators because they are very tiny numbers. And then to change from a decimal to a percent or a percent to a decimal, you're going to move the decimal one way or the other. These are going to be teeny tiny numbers. They are going to have decimal points in them, decimal points at the beginning of the number, and then the entire value follows after. Your homework worksheet looks just like this. It follows a very similar format of a couple of fractions, a couple of decimals, a couple of percents. The front side is greater than 100%. The back side is less than 1%. Use this video as a reference and a resource as you are working. And I will go over answers to that homework assignment on Monday.